Whether we live or we die, we will do it for the glory of Adonai Yeshua min Nazareth, Lord Jesus of Nazareth. Charlie Kirk did not die. He was killed for what he believed in, what he was passionate about, and what his identity was in, which was instilling traditional biblical values in this corrupted, evil, disgraceful generation. And they did not like that. So if for us to advance the works of God is what Charlie Kirk wanted us to do.
Lord, help me from lacking somebody. Lord, help me from lacking somebody.
Buckle up, folks, because today's story isn't about a quiet debate or some polite exchange of ideas. Nope. This is about receipts. And the target? None other than Charlie Kirk, the conservative firebrand who built his career mixing political ideology with religion until the two were almost unrecognizable.
Jesus rejects Christian nationalism, and the Bible's very clear about that. Jesus is not a mascot. He's a liberator of the oppressed. He reaches out to the most vulnerable. This is biblical. This is the gospel. This is real. And if we're going to follow Jesus, we need to follow him as the liberator of the oppressed, not as a mascot. I don't care how many crosses we route around our necks, right? I don't know how many times we've got flags waving at the same time and all that. Jesus rejected that outright in Nazareth. He rejected it numerous times. He rejected it when he came into Jerusalem on a donkey, said, I'm not going to be that kind of leader. Period.
Please just let me know, what part of Charlie Kirk was godly? Was it when he said that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake? Was it when he said that a few pew-pew unalivings a year were an acceptable price to pay to keep your Second Amendment rights? Was it when he said that little girls who are raped should carry their rapist baby? Man, you guys are just really showing your asses today, aren't you? That's what you thought made him a man of God, and you want me to feel an ounce of sympathy? Not only did he say all those things, but he tried to back it up with the Bible. Used the gospel as a weapon. I am not safe around a lot of
Christians? They're looking into his life closely now, and what they're finding is a mountain of contradictions. Christianity, at its core, has always emphasized humility, service, and care for others. But Kirk's rhetoric glorified power, wealth, and winning. He built his message around confrontation, dividing the world into us and them.
No, I do not value the life of someone who does not value the lives of other people simply because they're different. When the villain is defeated at the end of the movie, the audience claps for justice.
If that's what that does to a grown man's neck, then just imagine what it does to a child's body.
It's going to be more of a brutal take than the vast majority of people on this issue, where Charlie Kirk was today, and I don't care at all, and that includes the family he left behind. I have absolutely no sympathy or empathy at all. These are people that repeatedly have no problem demonizing and making life harder for those that didn't have parents to grow up with, and that includes myself, man. They absolutely despise people that are homeless, that even just fell on hard times and everything and lost everything. They absolutely hate them.
Do you think that there should be free school lunch for all children?
No.
Why?
Of course not. Because parents should feed their kids, not the government.
What if they can't?
Go get a job.
A child?
The parents should go get the job. Yeah. This is important. I don't believe
they have jobs and they can't support their children there because the minimum wage is so low.
No, you are a dumb dude. Don't give me this stuff. First of all, this is really.
I want children to eat.
Of course I do. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. Number two, we have churches, we have food shelters, we have billions, and it does not exist. We have a child obesity problem, not a child starvation problem in this country.
That's the type of guy he was. The absolute worst.
Charlie Kirk is also just horrifically wrong here. I mean, even if there are some obese kids, I'm sure there are in every country, that doesn't stop the fact that many American children have a problem with lack of nutrition. And it gets even worse when it's lack of nutrition at school, during the school day. Because here's the problem, a lot of kids rely on this school lunch for their only lunch. When their parents don't feed them and they are starved, they rely on this school lunch. Without this school lunch, there are studies that kids are way less effective at studying, at retaining information, at just being able to function on a day-to-day basis. So just to back up, if you want a good, functional society, Kids should not be starving, especially at school. Kids should be able to eat. And sometimes school is a last refuge for a kid who has a poor home life and isn't able to be fed properly at home. So the fact that Charlie Kirk has no empathy at all, it's just like, dude, this is the savior of the movement.
The white community isn't reacting as a block. It's splintering in real time.
I'm absolutely disgusted. Absolutely disgusted, because you know how many times Trump has had an Oval Office evening press conference about a school? Never. And tonight, all he did was talk about Charlie Kirk, and all he did was talk about political violence. He will stand up against political violence, but he didn't even acknowledge Evergreen. He didn't even acknowledge and offer any thoughts and prayers or condolences to these parents who are sitting on the bedside of their child who has been shot at school.
There was literally another entirely avoidable school shooting just a few hundred miles away at Evergreen High School that happened within 60 seconds of Kirk's assassination, as the blood of children whose names the public will likely never know was still drying. Charlie was being hailed as a hero by the President of the United States of America.
He's a martyr for truth and freedom.
This guy.
Charlie? I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk. I live as a capitalist. Come on, Cenk, let's go.
Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate.
But Trump did solve the murder.
Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people.
He thinks the lefty took that shot. No. Kind of suspicious, no? But I agree, let's make him a martyr. Let's do it, because there is one thing that Charlie and all of us agreed upon.
We as the American people deserve to have every Epstein file released with no redactions whatsoever.
This is it. This is the freaking tipping point, because I, like a lot of Americans, are pissed the hell off. I am done with us just saying that kids can die, but 31-year-old political influencers, he doesn't even hold a seat. He gets taken out, and we have an Oval Office press conference. It is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. And this is it. This is a tipping point. It is time. It is time to do something. Call to action.
Conservative whites are posting Bible verses, calling him a hero, even spinning conspiracy theories about his passing. Liberal whites are hammering Twitter with never forget threads and meme reels. Centrist whites are hedging with half-sincere posts like, agree or disagree, he made an impact, which basically reads like yearbook filler. And floating above it all are the memes. Kirk debating angels at heaven's gates, parody obituaries, TikToks with captions like thoughts and prayers. It's gallows humor and cultural therapy rolled into one, but the loudest response is indifference. Marginalized communities aren't celebrating. They're not mourning. They're just unmoved. We don't care too. And that indifference is a statement all its own. For people who spent years on the receiving end of his dismissive rhetoric, silence is the sharpest reaction possible. What's happening right now shows us something bigger. We live in the age of receipts. Screenshots don't vanish. Video clips never disappear. Legacies are no longer shaped by carefully written obituaries. They're defined by the archives the internet refuses to bury. For Charlie Kirk, that means there is no peaceful afterlife online. His story is receipts stacked on receipts, critics refusing to let his record be rewritten. The new rule is simple. Don't lie about the dead. If someone used their platform to dismiss pain, mock empathy, or excuse violence, the receipts will speak louder than eulogies. So, what's his legacy?
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
What? Consequences have actions, doesn't it, my dude? I mean, the irony to be mid-debate saying BS talking points, excusing this behavior, and then it happened to you? Couldn't have gone out better myself, man. That is unbelievable. You know, actions have consequences. You guys think that rhetoric isn't something that matters. Well, apparently it does, right? But don't cry about it now, because you don't care about literally any other event that ever happens, because you would rather, just like as Charlie Kirk said, have a portion of Americans just be so you could have your little hobby. I think that's absolutely barbaric. So don't clutch your pearls and try and use them as a martyr now just because one of your feelings got hurt because somebody actually did something about it. So who cares, dude? Who cares?
The difference now is that the people who thought they were safe, who thought violence was only something that happened to other people, are feeling it too. This is the cost of the culture that Charlie Kirk built. This is what happens when a nation worships guns and is taught to fear each other more than they fear power. Political violence has always been here. It's just now everybody is going to feel it. Charlie Kirk created the culture that killed him. Charlie was a professional provocateur. He used inflammatory fallacies and thought-terminating cliches to embolden those who have always held power, straight, white, cisgendered men. He even convinced some marginalized people that they could gain power by aligning themselves with these systems. Patriarchy, white supremacy, Christian nationalism. He profited off of this rhetoric at the expense of others' humanity. Charlie Kirk created the culture that killed him. One where gun violence is so normalized that even children are seen as collateral damage. Fascism is here, in part because of Charlie Kirk. And fascism is violent. But America has always been violent. Saying there's no place for political violence in America is as hollow as giving a thought and a prayer between the shooting at UVU and the school shooting in Colorado. America was built on political violence and continues to enact political violence every day. It's easy to condemn political violence when there's a hand on a trigger. It's harder to condemn everything that put the gun there in the first place, or the tax dollars funding a genocide, or the policies that disappear people who don't look like Charlie. Political violence has been a daily reality for Indigenous people, Black Americans, trans individuals, Palestinian.
The man who insisted feelings don't matter has, ironically, become a lightning rod for every possible feeling. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about Charlie Kirk. It's about us, about how the digital era rewires the way we process death, grief, and legacy. So maybe the headline isn't simply, Charlie Kirk is dead. The real headline is, the internet doesn't let you rest in peace. It makes you rest in receipts. That's the truth unfolding across the feeds right now.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year.
The reason that the worst people you know are on Facebook right now freaking out about empathy and children and father, wife, family, all of that is not because they're not okay with political violence. It's because this is the first time that they have ever been confronted with the fact that the political violence that they advocate for can happen to them.
Black people are only 13% of the population, yet they commit 55% of the murders. Why?
One of the things that Charlie Kirk talked about a lot was the Black community gun violence and how violent crimes were in Black America and why that happened.
Black people are only 13% of the population, yet they commit 55% of the murders. Why?
Because Black people tend to be in lower economic statuses.
So you think that poverty equals crime?
It's highly correlated. A lot of studies
this is where we
on that.
disagree. What an insult to the working poor of this country.
So why do you think Black people commit more
Well,
crime,
first
Charlie
of all,
Kirk?
what percentage of blacks have a father around when they're raised?
I'm not sure.
25%. 75% of Black youth are raised without a father in the home. 75%. It is the most predictable way to end up in prison, end up as a murderer or a criminal.
And why
It's
do
not a
you think that's
racism
a problem?
It's not a white supremacy problem. It's a fact that Black fathers impregnate women and they don't stay around with the women
And
that they have
why-
impregnated.
Well, the reality is that, see, what you taught us, you can't get away from. And that's the problem. You see? Now, what happened to us is now what you're also dealing with within your own community. And again, yes, Blacks are violent and Blacks have problems, but Blacks are not killing the significant figures on the right or trying to assassinate presidents or political figures in America. We don't do that. So why don't y'all put the emphasis on where it needs to be? Where is the accountability for y'all? You want to do a race war? You want to do a riot war against the Blacks because things are happening? Well, who has been your problem the whole entire time? It ain't been Blacks. If you really want to be honest, what you would say is the liberal left, right? It's other white people. That's always been the issue in white America. It's never been Black America because y'all always had that on lock. Both the white conservatives and white liberals have reduced Blacks to where they're not a threat to you, a real threat. It's a talking point. You know who the threat is. The guys who own the businesses, The guys who own the big corporations, and the left owns a lot. The people who can make things like this happen. That is who your real issue is with. But I think some of y'all are afraid of them, so you become powerless and blame it on the blacks who don't have that power. Charlie Kirk went around talking about black dysfunction, and black people were not responsible for his death. It's unfortunate it happened to him, but who are your real issues there? And it's not us. We've been neutralized as a community against whites. It's been over a long time ago. That was the whole plan, and you got successful with it. But the problem is, now you have other issues coming in the country. That ain't got nothing to do with us, but we are a punching bag for y'all. Until now, you can't get out of it this time.
Christians are calling Charlie Kirk a modern-day Martin Luther King Jr., and I just want to remind everybody that Charlie Kirk called Martin Luther King Jr. an awful person who destroyed and ruined this country by championing the Civil Rights Act. Martin Luther King Jr. was a committed socialist. Charlie Kirk was an adamant capitalist. Martin Luther King Jr. was committed to abolishing prisons. Charlie Kirk wanted to build more prisons. Martin Luther King Jr. was a nonviolent direct action activist. Charlie Kirk advocated for gun ownership for all. To compare Martin Luther King Jr. to Charlie Kirk is to ignore every single thing that they both said. Charlie Kirk himself said that Martin Luther King Jr. was an awful person who destroyed this country, and that he stood for everything against Martin Luther King Jr.
We note in our piece that Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true. And Kirk's self-described very, very radical view that the country made a mistake when it passed the Civil Rights Act. Also true.
And the Civil Rights Act, though, let's be clear, created a beast, and that beast has now turned into an anti-white weapon.
Charlie Kirk was an Islamophobic person who thought that black people don't even have the capacity to think for themselves. To compare Charlie Kirk to Martin Luther King Jr. is to ignore what both of those men stood for. So do not tarnish either of their memories, and remember the things that they actually stood for. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted to completely allow everybody to have the life that they deserved to live, where they were happy. Charlie Kirk only wanted white men to be happy. He was very clear about that, and that women and everyone should submit to them. That Martin Luther King Jr. was an awful person because he didn't submit to white people. That is what Charlie Kirk believed. So do not call him a modern-day Martin Luther King Jr.
Division wherever he went. He promoted conspiracy theory garbage like the Great Replacement Theory, which states that rather than white people being able to live in harmony with other races, minorities are plotting to replace us. As I speak, there is a concerted effort to turn him into a martyr, to weaponize his death as a justification for right-wing retaliatory violence, without the public really being truly aware of who this man actually was and the horrific things that he stood for. Charlie Kirk's death isn't a tragedy because we lost one of the good ones. It's a tragedy because of what it represents for American democracy and the dark times that are to come. Because Charlie Kirk was one of the worst stains on the reputation of my country. And while women with ectopic pregnancies bled out in hospital parking lots because their doctors were terrified of the new legal repercussions of performing life-saving abortions, Kirk, always the confident fool, touted that abortion was worse than the Holocaust.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
It's really not.
And said that if his 10-year-old daughter was raped, he would force her to carry it to term.
So if you had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped, would you want her to go through that and carry her rapist baby?
That's awfully graphic.
But it's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
And as millions of Americans struggled to pay rent, Kirk's solution to the housing crisis was to put more people in prison.
I said, honestly, we should be much tougher on crime. We need more people in jail. We need more arrests.
America has more prisoners than any country on earth, and one of the highest per capita rates. If you believe that this is the land of the free, I've got a rude awakening for you. He believed that university was a scam, and the only good reason for women to go to it was to find a husband.
I'm Addie, and I'm 14. I'm a freshman in high school.
I think there is an argument to bring back the MRS degree. And no, seriously,
And just be clear, that's why you're going to college, right? Don't lie to yourself, I'm studying sociology. No, you're not. We know why you're here. And that's okay. I say college is a scam, but if you're going to find your life partner, that's actually a really good reason to go to college. And so, yeah, you could go learn some stuff. That's fine, I guess, or whatever. Just don't listen to your professor.
Charlie Kirk had no formal education in political science or sociology or criminology, and despite the US having a heavily militarized, needlessly violent police force, which already has tragically higher rates of police shooting than any other developed country on earth, Kirk proposed that we get tougher on crime and bring back public executions.
In fact, I even think that we should bring back, public executions on certain people. No.
This was not a champion of free speech. This was one of the most vile mouthpieces of America's dark political underbelly, spewing absolute toxic filth. And had he actually read his Bible rather than simply using it as a prop to bludgeon those he looked down on, he might have taken a warning from Christ that those who live by the sword will die by the sword.
Charlie wanted to be remembered for his faith, and as he becomes a martyr for that faith, I think it's a discussion worth having, and whether that version of Christianity really represents the best of Christianity. Christianity has a scripture that says, "By your fruits ye shall know them," and so I think it's important to add to the conversation, what were the fruits of his rhetoric and his version of Christianity?
The receipts also highlight the dangers of Kirk's philosophy. By turning Christianity into a weapon, he didn't heal wounds. He reopened them. He didn't bridge divides. He widened them. And the scary part is, he did it with a smile, a microphone, and the confidence of someone who believed he was untouchable. Charlie Kirk's story isn't just about one man, it's about the dangers of mixing faith with politics until you can't tell the difference. It's about what happens when the gospel becomes a prop for ideology instead of a guide for life. And it's about the cost of building your platform on division instead of compassion. The receipts have been pulled. They're clear, they're painful, and they're long overdue. And maybe the most sobering part is this: receipts don't just expose one man, they expose an entire system that allowed him to thrive. Which leaves us with a question nobody can dodge. Will America finally read what's on those receipts, or will it keep pretending the bill hasn't come due? If receipts don't lie, then what do we do with a legacy built on them? Do we keep following a counterfeit gospel, or finally call it what it is?